should see some of the characters.
Right? Right?
The nice wings on your yeah.
Well, I was like, yeah, tie, no tie. Don't wear stripes. It might not look good on camera.
We're rolling. Welcome to the York Daily Record Sunday News Editorial Board. I'm Scott Fisher, editorial page editor, and we are here today with Todd Fogdall, who is the new president and CEO of the Strand-Capitol Performing Arts Center in York. And we are really happy to have you here to talk to us today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor and great to be here.
Great. Welcome. So just for some background for our viewers who might not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Where did you come from, and what brought you to York?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm new to York and to York County. I'm a Midwesterner really for my whole life. I grew up in Minneapolis, and that's really where, in many ways, I got my start in what I do today. I mean, I was fortunate to grow up in a family who really valued the arts. Growing up in a school in a school district, and I think at a time when the arts were still really valued, and there were a lot of opportunities for me, both to get involved in the arts as a performer. I was a trombone player in the band, but even field trip programs through the schools and other things. We went to see the Minnesota Orchestra and got to go to the Guthrie Theater, and got some great opportunities to be exposed in those things, which I totally remember today, and I think are all parts of what have led me to do what I do today. I was very involved in music through school as a performer, but I also found myself getting involved in other ways, organizing tours, being the president of the band, the vice president of the choir. I really hadn't put what I do today together with that. Mm-hmm. I was doing it because I had fun, because I was motivated to do it. I wanted to help move these organizations forward, and it was a few years out of college that I actually put those two things together, and I realized, hey, there are performing arts organizations out there that need administrators and managers, and that's what really led me on the career path and what brings me here today. I really did a lot of development and fundraising work at the Science Museum of Minnesota in St. Paul, and then out to Detroit, where I worked for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra for a couple of years. I was recruited to Des Moines and to a performing arts center called Des Moines Performing Arts there. And that's where I had spent my last 10 years before coming here to the Strand-Capitol and to York.
How does that compare to the Strand? Is it about the same size, or?
Des Moines Performing Arts is significantly larger.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's. The Strand's about a $3.5 million annual operating budget organization. Des Moines Performing Arts is about $17 million. They have a 2,700 seat theater, and it's a different landscape competitively, geographically. Being out there in the Midwest. We were a big player in the state. We weren't the only player in the state, but we were definitely the major player in the state there. And so different organizations. The Strand does many of the same things, just on a smaller scale and with, in our beautiful historic venues.
Same kind of content, like in terms of performers. Was it
similar?
Symphonies and musical shows.
Yep, symphonies. They had a big Broadway series there, dance series, family, and a lot of educational programming. That was one of the things that I was most proud of there in Des Moines. Was really took what was a very early educational initiative and were able to grow that into really for performing arts centers what's one of the leading educational initiatives and educational programs in the industry. So love to help do some of those similar kinds of things here.
So you've been here, about a month or so, or a little over a month?
I think I've been on the job for about 2.5 months.
Yeah. What are your impressions of York?
Oh, they've been really great. They've been really great from the personal side of it. I love the size of York. I love the quality of life. The community's been extremely welcoming, and I think the thing that just keeps coming back to me is how committed this community is to the Strand-Capitol. And even when things have gotten rocky and difficult for the Strand-Capitol, the community and the commitment to the organization from, back in, the 70s when that group of people got together to redevelop those theaters into what we are today, and then all the way through. I mean, I just hear that over and over and over again, and that commitment to the organization. It really stands out.
So I know that you kind of have maybe a slightly different vision for what the Strand can be or will be in the future in terms of its sort of syncing with the community and doing things in the community. Can you kind of talk a little bit about your vision for the future of the center?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and I will say the vision is still coming together, and I want to give it time to come together, but I think the organization in many ways is on the right track with a lot of the main stage programming that we're doing, and really looking at bringing a broad range, different types of programming, different types of the arts to the stage, and doing it on a very, very high quality. I mean, doing things like bringing in the Ailey 2 dance company and really high quality dance, and having that on the stage, and bringing Broadway back in a big way like we are this year, and some of those things, continuing to build those things up. I then see a ton of opportunities, like I talked about earlier, on the education side. And really building up those opportunities. We have a partnership now with William Penn High School, where we are operating the Performing Arts Institute, which had closed, and then starting a year ago, we started to operate that. And so, I mean, we provide that entire program, from all of the daytime courses, theater courses that are theater, dance, music that are provided, as well as then a whole slate of after-school programs. We organize a fall play, a spring musical, we're doing a spring musical review this year. So, I mean, really bringing back that whole slate of opportunities for William Penn.
How's that going? Because when that happened, that seemed like to us such a great idea, because it was such a shame that the school district wasn't able to support it any longer, and the Strand stepped in to kind of pick up the ball and run that. How has that been going? Have you had a chance to sort of interact with the kids? Is it in operation yet, or is that only during the school year?
It's only during the school year. So
okay.
I've come in at a time sort of in between years. I know we had a lot of great things happen the first year, and the first year was very much a ramping up year on any number of levels. And the school district and the Strand have a shared vision that program gets back to being a magnet program like the Performing Arts Institute used to be years ago, and bringing students from all over the county to come into that school and participate in those opportunities. I mean, we're adding on additional daytime classes this year. We're really taking those after-school programs and productions to the next level quality-wise. We're adding on that musical review that I mentioned. That's a new initiative this year. So, I mean, we're really working on building that up, getting more students involved in that, and continuing to move it forward.
Is it open to students outside the city school district? Can kids from suburban districts be part of that program?
Scott, I don't believe so now, but I don't know if I can answer that 100% for sure on that. Like I say, I know that's really the vision. We really haven't been marketing it as such. Could a student opt into it? I'm sorry, I don't know for sure.
And what if you talked about sort of like kind of connecting with the community? What other types of programs are you looking at along those lines?
Well, I mean, we've been having a lot of conversations about, how do we get outside of the four walls, so to speak, of the organization? What are the opportunities to maybe take programming out into the community? We have a vision sort of working in our minds about maybe bringing in a bigger performer for 3 days, 5 days, maybe a week to do sort of a whole community residency where they could go around and do different things with different groups and different pockets of the community and then culminate that with a performance and maybe some other things in the Strand on the stage. You know, do something that really, that community residency kind of thing that we can really get, you know, the width of the community involved with. Yeah, you know, I think education opportunities are great ways to be involving the community. You know, really looking at our onstage programming and continuing to look at bringing in that variety of things that are going to hopefully attract and appeal to a wide range of the community. I'd also like to see us do more with offering programming for families with young kids. And I'm really pleased with some of the things that we're bringing this year, and I'd like to see us even do more with that and even look at doing more programming still at a high quality, but that's at an accessible ticket price, at a ticket price that's sort of around the same price as going to a movie. Go to a movie, $8-10. If you could come to the Strand or come to the Capitol and see a live performance and give your kids that opportunity and that experience for that same kind of price point. I think there's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of opportunity to engage the community in various ways that way.
Now, I had heard this, and you can the opportunity to correct me if this is not an accurate portrayal. As I understand it, the idea kind of going forward might not be to have quite as many, I don't know how to describe this, but sort of marquee acts and have sort of more community-oriented programming rather than, you know, famous musicians or that sort of thing shows at the Strand. Is that an accurate portrayal of what you're visioning?
No, I wouldn't say that's an accurate portrayal. Okay. I mean, we are always looking to bring in, you know, as big a name as we can. And, you know, we do the best to compete with, you know, the other theaters and the other communities around us for those acts. There are definitely situations where we can't compete with Baltimore or with Philadelphia or with, you know, maybe with Hershey, with bigger venues for some acts. But there's still a lot of opportunities and a lot of places where, you know, an agent is putting together a tour for a big named artist, and that artist is going from New York City to Baltimore to Columbus, Ohio or something, and they're looking for a stop in between. I mean, we're always looking and working with agents on those kinds of opportunities and still continuing to bring in big names and to bring in top quality artists. Yeah, I mean, the community part is important, and, you know, we want to be and will be a home for community arts organizations, absolutely, and we do a lot to try to help make that happen. But, you know, bringing the best artists we can is going to continue to be a priority.
Yeah, what do you think that we just have too many performing arts centers in New York that were competing in each other? Is there
Polo Center, for instance?
Polo, the center in York College. There's a new center going up at Country Day. You know, there's one in Hanover as well. Are we overpopulated with them, or is there a way to merge efforts?
Look, you ask a good question. Are we overpopulated? I don't know. I mean, I think it's really looking at. I think, you know, the Polo Center in a lot of ways. I mean, they're there first and foremost to serve the students there, and I'm not real familiar with the Country Day, but I have to imagine that's going to probably be a lot for serving their programs that they have. You know, the Central High has a great performing arts center, but it's by and large being used by their own students. I mean, you know, we are going to continue to try to build relationships, to work with other theaters, you know, locally with other theaters in Pennsylvania. We're a member of a group called Pennsylvania Presenters, which is a consortium that, you know, that meets, that gets together, and talks about our businesses, that looks for opportunities. Are there ways that we can work together and maybe put together a block booking where we can go to an agent and say, we can bring you 3 dates. in Bethlehem and in York and in, somewhere else. Look at ways at doing that, or are there other ways that we might be able to partner and work together?
Is this a new thing for you, dealing with promoters and agents and so forth? Or when in your previous role, did you get a chance to sort of negotiate deals and bring in shows? Or
I did, Scott. I did in a couple of situations, but no. I mean, I very much came from the administrative, from the development and fundraising side of things, and I think the board, as they were really looking ahead at what does the Strand need to do, they really saw, the need. I mean, they're both huge jobs, running the business and, finding the talent. I liken it a little bit to, in professional sports, there's very few situations where you can have someone who's the general manager and the coach. You've got to have a really special person, because they're both such huge jobs and huge responsibilities. And so the board had made the very intentional decision that we really need to split those things off. Now I'm going to continue, so I'm not the day-to-day guy who's on the phone with the agents, etc.
Okay.
But I'm going to be involved in that. I'm involved a lot in really, helping to establish what that vision is going to be, what that mix is going to be. Because everything else flows out of that, and I'm gonna come back to education again. I mean, another thing that we want to do with our onstage programming is we want to start to build education programs that come right off of those things. And even as we're talking with an agent, to be thinking ahead about what could we be doing educationally with this performer. Could we do a master class? Maybe there's a pre or post show opportunity. Maybe there's something more we could do. Maybe we could get them to come in a day early and go to York High or go to a school and do, spend time with students or work with their band. Or, I mean, those are the things that we really want to anticipate and get ahead of to make more of these artists' time when they're here in the county.
What do they do when they come? Do they just hang out on their bus typically, or?
It depends.
I was often thought about that. I'm going to this show tonight. And maybe I drove through town and I see their bus and they're getting set up, and it's like these famous people are just sort of hanging around New York, and I'm just wondering, what are they doing all day? Do they go to Central Market? Do they?
I think some of them do. Some will go to Central Market. Some of them, check out town, or they want to go, visit this, that, or the other. Some of them, if they have a hotel, are going to hole up in the hotel. Some of them are looking for a gym in town that they can go, get a workout in. Some of them, they sit on the bus and they hang on the bus until it's showtime. It's very much. Oh, and then there are performers who do want to get out in the community, and we'll seek that out and say, hey, we're going to be in town by 3 o'clock, and we're going to sound check at 4, and I could do something at 5 o'clock. And that's a little bit more the minority, but there are definitely those examples out there.
Some of the master classes have been really neat things. Like, I didn't get to it, but Dweezil Zappa did one, a guitar master class, and I really wanted to go to it, but I heard it was really cool. So, the more of those things you can do, the better, I think. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a two-person duo called Black Violin who's coming here in November, and violin players who are doing hip hop and pop and rock music and all of that, and we're working with their agent now, who's actually a York County guy, and about seeing, is there a way that we can build something like that into their time here, or even looking ahead to the future, could we bring them back and maybe do something larger and have them here for several days? And I
think you covered this in a couple different questions, but I want to just see if we can get a summary from you in one question. The Strand-Capitol is, there's gone through several different evolutions and some real high points with renovations and within the last 10 years, a big renovation, but some low points. And what is it that you're going to bring that is going to make the biggest difference? A community theater with competition around that we talked about. What are you going to bring? What is the one or two ideas that are going to make the difference here?
I guess I hope that I'm going to bring a business savvy. I think one of the things that was very attractive from my background to the board and the search committee was the background that I have in development and fundraising work. And I think that's going to be an absolute need for our organization. And I have been involved in helping to develop and build performance programs, and I was very involved in building a family series back in Des Moines, a dance series back in Des Moines, was very involved in building that education program I was involved with. So, I would say sort of, business savvy piece, the fundraising and that program development.
One thing that we've advocated over the last couple of years are for local groups to call on homegrown talent, meaning celebrities that are throughout the world with York County roots, to come back and give back. And
Right.
and for example, Rita Mae Brown came for a fundraiser for Camp Security. Ken Ludwig came back for a fundraiser for YLT.
Oh, okay.
Little theater.
Yeah.
And there's well-known celebrities, Jeff Koons, Del McCoury, live.
Yep.
Just down the street.
Yep.
One of the Dixie Chicks was born in York County.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean.
Well, and we have a show coming in the spring called the Midtown Men, and these are all performers who were in the Jersey Boys show on Broadway, and J. Robert Spencer was, Central High grad, is going to be here in that show and be a part of that. And it's always exciting when we can do that and you can find those local connections. And I've been a huge live fan for years, and I'd love to get them on our stage. Absolutely.
Do you know what the split is at the Strand on their funding? How much comes from the shows and how much comes from donations?
Right now, we've been about 60% shows to about 40% donations in terms of revenue.
What's optimal?
It really depends. It really depends case by case. But I think we need to be getting more to a 55-45 kind of split. The contributed revenue is definitely going to be a focus for us. We've made some great progress on that in the last couple of years, but it's one we need to continue to grow, and we need to continue to grow it pretty significantly.
And is that going after individual donors or corporate donors or all of the above?
Well, it's going to be a little bit of all of the above.
Yeah.
And these are, with my development background, a lot of conversations that we've had. Corporate sponsorship is always going to be key. But I really believe there's a lot of potential on the individual side. And if you're a development nerd like me and you're reading development publications and all, everybody is saying the opportunity is in the individual donors. There's a relatively static number of corporations, and whether it's here or anywhere else back in Des Moines, those corporations get split off and they get sold and they move out of town, or the ownership company moves out of town, and those corporate funding streams get harder and harder to grow. And I still think there's an opportunity to grow the corporate side here, absolutely, but we're going to be giving a lot of focus to individual members and donors as well.
Do you think people understand that their tickets are not paying for the entire productions that they're seeing? Is that well known, or is that something? Is that an education thing that you need to get people to understand that if we really want this kind of thing in York, we have to support it with donations? And
it's definitely part of the education. Yes. Because that is that's the unfortunate reality, is that most of the dollars are going to go out the door to the performers and to the other expenses related to the engagement. Mm-hmm. I think, sort of having my fundraising hat on, I think it's also really incumbent on us to really speak to the larger impact that the Strand-Capitol has on the community. The things we're doing educationally, the economic impact, and what a night when the Strand has a big house on stage, what that means to the restaurants and the bars and to things happening downtown. And looking at all the exciting things and all the exciting plans that are happening, they're happening right around the Strand, and I think there's a reason for that. And these are all sort of important educational messages for us as we're sort of making that case for support and encouraging the community to part with their money in that way and make those donations.
How would talk about the downtown? Talk about what's going on around the Strand-Capitol. What are you seeing? What's the vibe?
I mean, from what I can see, the vibe is really, really positive and really great. I mean, it's so exciting to see a new restaurant going in over in the Bistro 19 space right across from us. I know they're working on a new brewery kitty corner from us and trying to get that together. All the plans for that first block of Market Street and that are happening over there. I mean, coming in as a new person to the community and just sort of looking at the downtown and reading the newspaper and talking with people. I mean, it's to me, it's a fabulous time to be here and a really exciting time for what's happening downtown. I mean, last Friday was, jammed. Jammed downtown, and that's great. I mean, that's fantastic.
How familiar are you with sort of like suburbanite Yorkers' sort of love-hate relationship with the city? Have people explained to you that York was a thriving town and a lot of people moved out and they're afraid to go downtown? Have you kind of encountered that kind of attitude yet? And what do you say to people like that who would say, I'd like to go to a Strand show, but I just don't go downtown? There are just lots of people who are like that in New York County.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And there were a lot of people like that in the Des Moines area.
Really?
Who lived out in the suburbs, who never went downtown for whatever reason. It's hard to park. I don't know where to go. It's going to be crowded. It's not going to be safe. It's, Des Moines is a very safe community, but, getting past some of those perceptions can be really, really difficult. I think it's you're trying to extend the invitation. Talk about all the great things. You can park once. You can find a great place to eat very close to where you are. You can come across the street, all within a block or two of each other. We have a great relationship with the York Police Department. They have their downtown crew on their Segways who are riding all around there and just helping to keep an eye on things. I don't know if I have a magic bullet, and honestly I haven't talked with a lot of those people yet. I've heard people say that yes, that's the case.
Mm-hmm. But you haven't encountered too many.
I haven't encountered it so much yet.
Mm-hmm.
No, but
read the comments on news stories.
No. Well, I'm sure. No, I'm sure it's out there. And I think honestly, sort of in these first couple of months, a lot of what I've been doing is sort of meeting with our friends and meeting with our supporters and
right.
And meeting with that group and but as we get out and as we're really trying to reach out to the community and encouraging people and that's why this whole part about getting outside of our four walls. And I think in some ways first reaching out to the community in some ways, and we're figuring out what that looks like. I'm hoping that can sort of be that first step, If we can reach out to you in some way, we can show you this is cool, this is exciting, this is, accessible, that you're welcome here, that's where we're hoping that we can go with as we think about some of those things.
We were talking about this meeting the other day at our regular week editorial board meeting, and one issue that came up was there's this really cool sort of all-star show of high school theater performers in New York County. It used to be called the Rosies, and
right.
they would have kind of do little scenes from each production. and it was at the Strand, and it was like
Right.
wonderful because, you know, it's in the center of our community, it's right downtown. I think there are a lot of sort of political things that went on behind the scene, but now it's out at Central High School, which is also a great facility and lots of parking and whatever.
Right,
But,
right.
you know, we kind of sort of lament it. It's just a shame that something like that isn't downtown. Would you see it as maybe a goal to try to bring that back downtown, or?
It is definitely a goal.
Yeah.
It's definitely a goal of mine, and I have Lynn Bergdahl, who runs the Encore Awards at YLT. I mean, she and I have met, and I've said that to her, and Central's it has some things right there that we don't, but absolutely. I mean that. And I haven't experienced that, but when I was in Des Moines, we had a somewhat similar program there. And I mean, it was probably the most exciting night of the year, year after year, when we had that showcase evening, that evening when all those students came and performed and cheered for each other and had a chance to get up there on the big stage and, do what they've worked so hard on and show everybody what they've worked so hard on. It was the best day of the year, and I mean,
because this is a stage that huge stars have stood on and performed on. It's like it'd be so cool to be able to perform on that same stage.
Yeah, and hopefully we find a way, or maybe that program grows, and maybe there's an aspect of it that's at the Strand, an aspect of the Central. I don't know, but I mean, I'd love to have that back at the Strand. Mm-hmm.
What's the relationship? How are you working with the York Symphony, and talk about that, the synergy there and the energy there?
Oh, there's great energy there. I mean, there are so many great things that are happening for the York Symphony right now with Lawrence Galan and the growth that they've seen in their season ticket base and in their audience base. And I haven't even had a chance to hear the ensemble. My family bought season tickets a couple of weeks ago and are really anxious to get involved with that. I mean, we've been working with them on any number of levels for many years, and there are, they office with us in our facility, and they're going to be adding staff that's going to be in the facility as well. We've been providing finance functions for them and a lot of operations functions, and we're actually working right now on sort of looking at all of that, figuring out what makes best sense for both of us. I mean, it's probably our most important partnership in the community, and again, for me as a new person coming in, it's such an exciting time, and I'm so pleased. And I've worked for Symphony, so I have them in my heart. I'm so pleased to see good things happening for them, and for them to really be in a state of growth. And I meet next week for the first time with Lawrence, and I'm anxious to meet with him, and I'd love to talk with him and envision some ways that we might be able to work together. And could we bring Idina Menzel to the Strand stage, supported by, backed up, accompanied by the YSO. I mean, something like that. I mean, that would be a huge evening, and I think something that hasn't been done in many, many years.
Yeah, there's an example of someone, there's definitely some positive movement there. You see him out in the community when he's in town. He goes and guest conducts the Dallas Intermediate School Orchestra, things like that. He kind of flattened it out a little bit.
Yep.
So it's very interesting. Well, I'd ask you about, did you knew of Dominic Argento at University of Minnesota?
Yep.
He's a York guy. Grew up in York.
I know I had heard that. I know I had heard that, yeah.
Our columnist, he's the uncle of our columnist, Mike Argento.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, very
So
good.
he's an example. I understand he doesn't travel now, but he's an example of a local person who obviously won a Pulitzer Prize and so on. And so that came to mind. You said you were in Minneapolis for a number of years. I wonder if you ever crossed his path.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I might have in some of my band or music days, because I did some things at the university. struggling to remember right at the moment.
Ashley, you're kind of like the, not kind of, you are the entertainment expert. Is there anything that you'd like to jump in and ask at this point?
He's answered a lot of my questions already, so pretty good. I'm sure we'll be bugging you, and as the seasons go on, and
Well, no, absolutely, please do. I mean, we our season really kicks off the beginning of October, and we have a crazy first 2 weeks of the year with a Hotel California, an Eagles tribute band, and we have Bella Fleck and Abigail Washburn, banjo, traditional folk music. We've got some comedy in there. The YSO starts their season. We've got Chris Cornell. I mean, we really start to fly. And one other thing that hasn't really come up, but that we're working on this year is expanding that Cap Live series. We were talking a little bit about that live music, and it's a fabulous series. And doing that in the Capitol is an awesome place to listen to live music and to see acts. The bands love to come and perform in that theater. There just aren't that many places like the Capitol
There's just
Theater.
not a bad seat in the house.
No.
Really, you can see it. Yeah, it's great.
And the sound is great. They love to play there. Everybody's right there, right on top of them. It's got a great vibe, and that's something that we want to continue to grow and do more with. Because I mean, this is a great live music town, and it really is growing its live music sort of persona, and I think we see ourselves as having a big role in that.
Are you intimately involved in that series, or you just kind of oversee it as the CEO, or are you helping to find acts and things like that?
I mean, it's more of an oversight role
Yeah.
right now. We work with a great guy, Sean Kenny, who does this on a volunteer basis for us, and I mean, he started this series how many years ago, and he's always done it on a volunteer basis. And myself and our general manager Ann Sturm and Sean and I were just having lunch a couple of days ago, and we were talking about this. We were talking about how do we grow the series this year, but we were also talking about what then are other opportunities that we could be doing and bringing. Could we create a singer-songwriter series, and maybe we do that on the stage of the Strand. Everybody sits on the stage of the Strand, and the seats themselves that's the backdrop, and or what are some different things we could do in some cool and different places. Again, on that sort of live music side of things.
One criticism I've heard over the years, and it's not a big criticism, but it's there every now and then. I hear from people. The Strand doesn't really have shows that appeal to like young urban audiences necessarily. I'm not saying ever, but in a general sense, hip hop artists, things like that. Has that come up in discussions, and have you thought about maybe addressing that issue?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely come up a little bit. I think it's come up more as an opportunity than as a criticism as I've heard it so far. Mm-hmm. And I think you look at bringing in a group like a Black Violin, and I mean, that's I think definitely a step in going in that direction. And yeah, and we've talked about hip hop dance. That's a very growing movement, and there are growing number of opportunities out there to be bringing groups in like that. And music wise, no, I mean, I think it's important and and trying to do it at a price point that's going to be accessible, especially to younger people.
I think this happened before you got here, but the Strand did a test. Was it last year, I think, where they did actually maybe you'll remember better than I did, but they did a show that they price pointed at like $10, or did they do a free show?
The YSO one that packed the house.
And they packed the house because they brought the price, or they did free tickets or something, they brought it way down. And it was a test to see what's the balance between ticket price and filling that house up. And I had heard afterwards that it went very, very well, and that they were talking about, okay, how do we get to a price point that starts bringing, where we fill more seats and just get more people through the door to appreciate what's going on here. Is that something that's a big goal for you guys?
Well, I mean, I think, and that's where the contributed revenue comes
Exactly.
in. I mean, yeah, that was done with the symphony, and you know, there was an underwriter who basically stepped up,
Yeah.
at least for that free concert,
Mhm.
to help make that happen. But I mean, you know, the symphony did take some, you know, pretty drastic steps in cutting its ticket prices across the board to great impact.
And it has moved people to come in.
Yeah, and it has moved people to come in that way. And yeah, I mean, price point is always going to be key. And you know, so I was saying with, you know, that family series, we've got to find a way to make that accessible, and we need to have programming and opportunities that are gonna do that. And if we can really grow the contributed side, if we can find some angels out there to help us do that, there might be an opportunity to do some things
Yeah.
even steeper.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you touched on, you know, going after, you know, you're not going to shy away from going after large acts. I know that the Strand had John Legend there, I think
Right.
it was last year. And that's something that I see that drew in people from outside the city, the suburban crowd. It also got a younger crowd there.
Yeah.
You know, what are your feelings about going after those mega stars for the Strand?
Oh, I mean, like I say, we'd love to do it. I mean, there's honestly, for us to make it happen, we either go out and we compete with the big markets and with the really big price tags, and we've got to find, you know, the sponsorship or the underwriting to make that work, or we try to find those opportunities when we can be a fit in to really make a tour come together. And that's what happened in the John Legend case. He had a couple of dates, couple larger cities, had a space to fill, and we were able to bring him in with what for us, with the 1,260 seats to sell, that we could make work. So I mean, we'd love to do both. You know, a lot of times we're trying to fit ourselves in on those tours like that John Legend case. But I would like us also, especially to try, if we can look ahead a little bit, build ourselves some time to do that fundraising, to get some of those pieces in, so we could be competing with some of those bigger markets and try to bring in some bigger acts that come with bigger price tags. And you know.
And so is the challenge with those kinds of acts that you can't raise price because of the number of seats you're selling? You'd have to raise the ticket prices so significantly to pay for the act that you always end up having to go into the Strand's coffers to kind of make up the difference to keep the price point decent. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, it can become a little bit of a game of the number of seats you have to sell, how much inventory you have, and you know, if we're competing with Hershey, which has 2,500 seats,
Right.
they have twice the number of seats to sell as we do. It just, yeah,
So
I mean,
you're not
just
going to charge twice the ticket price just to get the act.
Yeah.
You won't be able to fill it.
Yeah. So it, you know, it's part of the process and part of what we're trying to figure out and work with. Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Good. Well, I have no other questions. I really appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us. And
Thank you.
It was really enlightening, and wish you luck with the community vision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.